NATO is back at what he likes to call fallow deer paradise. Although if you were a fallow deer living here at the moment, you would not be calling this place paradise, as there has been a whole bunch of spotlighting going on trying to get the numbers down even more. This trip I have one objective, and that one objective is to shoot a fallow deer with my bow and arrow from a tree saddle. I'm all set up in the tree, but the wind's a little bit, I thought it might be because here's a little bit low. There's a spot just here where the deer come in underneath a deer fence. Really old deer fence, it's full of holes, but this spot is a real high traffic spot. So I was hoping that if I was set up here, I'd catch a deer up coming either which way, but the wind's blowing straight back in here, and I actually wanted the wind to be blowing complete the other way, so I don't think I'm going to hang out here too long. But it's just good to get up in the tree, get in the saddle, get the feel for it, and you never know your luck. My first spot turned out to be a bit of a flop. The wind was just swirling around, and when you're ambush hunting, I've found that there's no point sitting still when the wind's swirling. So spot number 2, it is a spot that I've hunted a number of times before, but I always used to hunt the tree up there because I could only shoot on this side of me. But now that I can shoot 360 degrees around the tree, I've come down the hill a bit further, so I've got shots out to the left and shots out to the right. I should really be on the ground hunting today because it is super windy and I'd have all the noise cover that I'd need, but so keen to shoot a deer out of my new tree saddle. Hopefully one's going to come along down here. It looks perfect. And I'm going to stay here until dark. All I need is for a deer to make an appearance. No venison in the frying pan yet. Morning coffee time. I left my tree saddle and tree stand in the tree that I was in yesterday afternoon, so I'm going to go straight back there. Yesterday was a bit of a flop. NATO should have been walking around in the bush and utilising the windy day that he had rather than sitting in a tree, but today seems a bit more calmer. Hopefully the deer are moving. Fingers crossed it's going to happen. I'm here for 2 more nights. I've got all day today, all day tomorrow, and pretty much all day the following day as well. My plan was to sit in the tree until 9 o'clock, and it is about that now, so I'm going to get down out of the tree and I'm going to go for a sneak through a bit of bush just over these ways and hopefully stick an arrow and a deer in there. But I'm also going to be looking for a tree saddle spot for tonight and tomorrow morning. As much as I know this to be a good spot, I really want to try different spots and go up and down a few trees with this saddle and kind of really get a feel for what it can and can't do. So yeah, I've seen very little deer for what I normally see at this place. They've finally started to make a serious dent in the deer numbers here. I seen 2 deer yesterday from the hut, and that's it. That's all I've seen. So they'll be here somewhere though, I guarantee it. I did a mission around to a few places and spooked some deer, but I was literally spooking them from 3 meters away in this real thick crap. Thick, swampy crap that they were 3 meters away and I couldn't even see them. Just bouncing off and making a her of a racket, giving me a hell of a fright. Didn't even have time to press record, let alone shoot one. And considering I couldn't see them, had no chance anyway. I didn't find any new tree saddle hunting spots today. Nothing just really worked. There's not a lot of big mature trees here. It's lots of tea tree and pine trees and stuff, but yeah, where I want to be, there just isn't a tree, and the wind is swirling at all the low spots that I'm going to at the moment, and all the low spots seem to have the deer, so a little bit of a dilemma. So I'll just try a bit of ground hunting, do a loop around here back to the hut, and then I'm going to go back over to the tree that I've got this tree saddle set up for and hunt there again tonight. And I'll probably hunt there again tomorrow morning. And hopefully between now and then I find another new tree to put the tree saddle in. The owner of the property has been hardcore spotlighting, trying to get the deer numbers down to the point that he even said NATO was going to struggle to get one with the bow. No, I got one. The saddle is awesome. I've hunted this spot a lot, but I used to sit in that tree there. That tree there is 20 meters away from the tree that I'm in. And then I've had deer walk through this beautiful grassy bit here. And that, if a deer was standing there where that deer was this morning and I was back in that other tree, that's a 37 meter shot. But from here, it's a 17 meter shot. And if a deer did walk in and up and over this ridge, I've got a 20 meter shot back this way. It's just perfect. I started tree stand hunting 2 years ago, and the main reason for my want to start tree stand hunting was to take a mature buck off public land with my bow. My plan was to stick a tree stand above what I thought to be a mature fallow buck scrape and sit in that tree stand over the raw period and hope that a big buck came in. I even said that I wouldn't shoot anything other than a big buck. I had a young buck come through that I let go. I had spikers come through that I let go. From letting those animals go, I learned so much about ground scent. The animals were hitting my ground scent and just responding like you wouldn't believe. I had a spiker come in on me 10 hours after I'd got in the tree, and the spiker walked right to the base of my tree and sniffed the ground where I was that morning 10 hours ago, and it bounded off as if someone had shot at it. I put in a fair few days tree stand hunting over a scrape that I'd hunted previously and seen a big buck the previous year, and the plan worked. I was sitting there all quiet, spied a spiker. The spiker had snuck in on me without even hearing a single sound. But the spiker kept looking back, and it was towards the end of May at this point, and I was figuring that the deer would have been starting to group up, the bucks would have been starting to group up, and I just had a feeling in my head that this deer was looking back at a big buck. Sure enough, through the trees I spy this buck coming, but realise pretty quickly that it isn't one big mature buck, there's two of them. The spiker hit my wind and bounced off. Then the first big buck got right to the base of my tree, but he caught my wind, bounced the same way the spiker did. And then the third buck toddled through beautifully. If I'd had a tree saddle, I could have shot this buck straight down on top of him, straight between his shoulder blades. I would have owned him. After that experience, I was sold on a tree saddle, as a tree saddle allows you to shoot 360 degrees around the tree that you're in. If I'd had a tree saddle that day, I would have shot that buck. What have I got to do to get one of these things? Holy shit. They walked in behind me. I couldn't get a shot. I need them down here. I need them down there. And they were down there. Two, not one, but two monster bucks. That's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me in hunting before, ever. So I got a tree saddle, come up to what I call fallow deer paradise, and the plan was to hunt here morning and night in my tree saddle, do little missions around during the day, and try and get a deer out of my tree saddle. And I just let an arrow fly at a deer that was all of 17 metres away. Shot looked good, didn't get a pass through, so I'm guessing that means I hit the offside shoulder. And if I hit the offside shoulder, dead deer. That deer is only my third deer for 2020. Although in saying that, a bug and home detention completely ruined the roar this year. I got my first deer this year in the rain using a big hat that I had Simon from Hills Hats make me so that I could go hunting in the rain. It would keep my binos and my rangefinder dry so I could use them. Found a couple of deer and managed to bowl one of them. Well, there she is, NATO's first deer for 2020. I am absolutely stoked. I haven't got a deer on this property, on the private land or the public land, since 2018, August of 2018, and it is June 2020, so to say that I am happy is wrong. She's a lovely day today. Oh, check out the rain. My second deer for 2020 was just one of them I got lucky ones. I was just bashing my way up a ridge. There was an area that I was going to hunt up on top of the ridge. It was a bit more open, a few little grassy areas. I was crashing and banging up the hill, and then I hear crash bang, and there's deer, and for whatever reason, one of the deer just ran around to my left side and gave me a perfect broadside shot at 20 meters, and I absolutely smoked it. Deer came from that way, came down this trail, was standing about here somewhere, and NATO was up in the tree right there. I was starting to panic. That's the first bit of blood that I found, and it's like 50 meters from where I shot the deer, but I didn't get a complete pass through, so there's only a hole on one side. Oh, that's looking a bit better. She's gone an awful long way. I'm probably at like 100 meters now. Right. There's my deer. Oh, nice work, NATO. That deer is about as good as it gets, I reckon. The Parries out in the paddock aren't too happy with me. Well, there you have it. NATO's very first deer out of a tree saddle. Stoked as. Big bucks to come. All I gotta do now is drag the deer like 40 or 50 meters away to a track that I can get the motorbike to, go back to the hut, get the motorbike, get the deer, go butcher that. There's a tree just down here I can go skin it on, take it up to Ross's Chiller, and then I'm coming back. I've got all the rest of today. It's only like 9 o'clock at the moment. I've got all the rest of today to hunt, staying in the hut again tonight, and I've got all day tomorrow, not going home until it gets dark. See what I mean about the deer don't think this place is fallow deer paradise? The boys have been smashing them. God, they're lucky I'm not walking around. I haven't got a turkey with my bow before. Just about to head off for another saddle hunt. I've been at the hut so many times and I see deer coming out from underneath the fence onto the grass down there, and they're doing this in the middle of the day. And I've always thought, man, that'd be a cool place to have a tree stand and then just sit down there in the middle of the day for a couple of hours. You still got your morning hunts, you still got your evening hunts, but you can spend the middle of the day around lunchtime down there, because normally at lunchtime I'm at the hut and there's deer down on that grass. The trees down in that area are just really small, but there's some bigger tea tree down there that I reckon I can get up in. And from memory, there was one tree that I was really close to having a crack at putting my tree stand in. If I could have just about put a tree stand in it, then I can definitely saddle hunt it. So let's go check it out. I'm all set up in my spot. Saddle hunting is awesome. You can set up pretty much anywhere. This is an awesome little spot. The deer comes through the fence out of a massive pine block behind me. They go across the race and under the fence, and then they come down along the inside of this creek, and then they cross the creek just down in there, and they've been crossing the creek down in there for eons, because a deer can go under the fence without even touching the wire, put it that way. And if the wind will hold, then I'll stay here till about 2-3 o'clock, and then I'll be straight back to the hut, and then I want to go back over the other side, and there's a couple of pieces of bush that I know will have deer in it, and I'm going to try and sneak in there and get a shot at one. The wind is crap. It's blowing this way often, and sometimes I reckon it's blowing all the way to the pines before it turns and comes back. So I'm going to sit here anyway till 1 o'clock because it's such an awesome spot, and then execute my evening hunt plan. I was just sitting here looking this way, and I've been looking this way most of the time thinking that's the way the deer are going to come from. And then I hear thump, 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 thump. And 3 deer came in right behind me. And they've just run in up there. I can just see one through the bush. It's just standing there. You just never know your luck. I got down out of the tree at 1 o'clock as planned. But this is right where those deer were standing that I seen from the tree stand that spooked back this way. They came from that way. Came down around and they were headed that way. But the wind right here is perfect. It's coming straight out of there and coming straight this way. So if a deer would come from that way and come this way, it wouldn't smell me here. And if a deer come from that way and come this way, it wouldn't smell me here. So this here could actually be a lot better than just down there. 60 meters that way, the wind is swirling like crazy. But right here, where those deer were, the wind is good. But I reckon tomorrow, I'm going to come back and hunt that tree from about 10, 11 through till 2, 3 o'clock. And I just might get another one cruising on past here. There's a huge swamp out there, so they've got to come around this way to get that way. There's a big deer fence, well, an old deer fence. There's places they can get through it, but for the most part, I think they're following this deer fence along to get out to the pine block, or to get from the pine block back this way, so this could be perfect. Sitting here having a coffee, and I can't stop thinking about that spot. It is just awesome. There's just a massive hourglass kind of thing going on there. The deer going around the corner of that deer fence are never going to smell me. The only negative is, well, there's a couple of negatives actually. I put a heap of ground scent there, of course, but I only put the ground scent on that side, so any deer coming from this other way, it isn't going to hit my ground scent until it goes past me, until I would have already shot it. So that's really all the chance I need. So tomorrow morning, I'm up stupid early, and I'm headed down there to get up in that tree, and I'm going to sit there until 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. But from now until it gets dark, I am on the ground, sneaking around, trying to get an arrow loose at a fallow deer. On my ass, sliding down a hill yet again. Well, that's that. What an awesome hunt. I'm headed back to the hut, and I'm going to be dreaming about saddle hunting first thing tomorrow morning at that spot. It's going to be awesome. Check it out, there was no venison in the frying pan last night. Last morning coffee for this trip. Morning coffee has been had. Excitement levels are jacked. I'm fully packed, ready to go. Gonna walk down to that little spot in the dark. Well, it's just starting to get light. I don't want to be doing it in the dark, but get down there right on dark with enough light so that I don't need my headlamp to get my gear up into the tree. I'm gonna sit there till 2 o'clock and then come back to the hut, get fully packed up, get ready to leave, and then I can go for an evening hunt and hunt till dark. I made it, I'm all set up. I'm a little bit late though, I could have left the hut a little bit earlier. There were deer on the grass out here and I spooked them coming in. And then when I got in the tree I had to saw a branch off, so I made a hell of a racket. So I'm not expecting to see any deer for a little while, but wind's perfect, everything's good. I'm closer than I thought. It's 12 meters to the corner post of this deer fence, so at the closest the deer's going to be like 11 meters away. That's not a bad thing. All I got to do now is sit back and wait. The wind has started playing up big time. It's pumping back the way I want the deer to come from. So I'm going to pull the pin back to the hut and a ground mission will be planned between here and there. There's a deer dead center screen. I reckon I've got absolutely no hope of getting that one. It's 50 meters away right now. The wind isn't holding, and on this side of the hill it is so quiet. Over there's where I spotted him from, and he's just down here. NATO just got ghosted by a fallow deer. I got right into 23 meters and I could only see the deer's head. He'd got up on his feet and he was looking around hardcore. So I knew that he'd got my wind, but he didn't know where I was. So there was a chance. I was lucky enough to be able to stand up behind a big pine tree that was between me and him, and then I just stood there. I had a 23 meter shot, but a 20 meter set on my pin, and I just needed him to step out one side or the other. He finally did, but slowly snuck off in the opposite direction, and I had a spot marked on the ground at 28, and if he got to that point then I wasn't going to shoot it at him past that. So he got past that pretty quick, but then after that he just completely disappeared.